So today we are talking about everything to do with eyeshadow, and I'm going to go through, just like I did with all of my lip products, show you all of my stuff, talk about some of it, talk about the things that I'm getting rid of that I no longer want or just don't use, and it's really kind of like a collection and a declutter video at the same time. So this video is probably going to be 2 parts as well because I'm going to talk about all of my larger palettes also. So just buckle up, grab some popcorn, and let's get into this. First, I'm going to start with my larger eyeshadow palettes, and the first one I have here is from Mally. This is the City Chic Loving Life shadow palette. This is the pink one. There is also a purple one and a green one. I have owned the purple one, but I passed it on to somebody. They did not like it. They gave it back, and I think it ended up being donated to my church to a program that works with women that have been in sex trafficking here in Atlanta, and they work their way through the program and they kind of graduate up to where they're allowed to use makeup, and so that's where I'm donating my makeup to, is this program. That's when I say I'm donating, that's where it's going if nobody wants it. But anyway, this is the palette. It's set up very similar to the Naked palettes. You have a very nice mirror in here. You've got all your shadows, you've got space for a brush, and then the only thing different is you have this eyeshadow base in here, which I actually like the eyeshadow bases that these come with. My problem with this is I never reach for it, ever. Like, I'm getting rid of this. I love this brush, by the way. It's a very fluffy brush on one end, and then a very good crease brush on the other end, so I'm keeping that, but this is leaving. The colors in here are nice. Like, I think it's a very nice, they're very nice eyeshadows, very nice colors, but I don't understand these colors together. That's, I guess, my problem. Like, this really icy aqua blue color, I don't get why it's in this palette, and this really light lavender shade as well, I don't understand why it's in this palette, because everything else is very warm toned, very neutral colors. But then you have these 2 really pastel-y colors in here, and I don't really understand that, so that's being passed on. Then I have my BH Cosmetics Galaxy Chic 18 color baked eyeshadow palette. This has a pretty decent sized mirror in here, and then you get 18 really fun colored eyeshadows. I love this palette for when I want color and I want really shiny pigmented color. I love these eyeshadows. I love these 3, this one, and these 2 in particular. But when I want color or I want crazy, bright, metallic, shiny eyes, I go with this palette. I love this palette. Then I have the Kat Von D Spellbinding Eyeshadow Book. This was one of her first big eyeshadow palettes that I purchased. I love this palette. I also have the Monarch palette by her as well. These are 2 of my favorites. I don't really ever use this one on camera anymore because it was a limited release for the holidays, but you have this overlay of all of the shadow names, but then you have all these really fun, really cool colors. I love this palette. I will say that this palette's quality of eyeshadows is not as good as what her quality is now. Like, the quality of the Monarch palette is 100 times better. Incredibly pigmented. These are insanely pigmented as well, but the quality and the texture and the butteriness in these just is not the same in the Spellbinding Eyeshadow Book. I like them both. I use them both constantly. Then I have the first and the second Naked palettes. I'm keeping both of these. I love these. I use this one for weddings, and I use this one all the time. Like, when I say I use this all the time, I'm not lying. Like, it's broken, it's dingy, I have hit pan on 1, 2, 3, 4 eyeshadows. I'm about to hit pan on Sidecar. I have hit pan on Sin as well, I just noticed. So these first 3, these 2, and this one I've almost hit pan on as well. Like, I love this palette. And the second one, like I said, I use this for weddings all the time, specifically these first 5 colors here. These both did come with brushes, which I still have both of them. I use them all the time. This one came with my Naked 1 palette, and then this one came with my Naked 2 palette. So I love both of those. Then I have the Amrezi palette, which was a limited edition release from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This also came with a brush. I'm not really sure where it is at the moment. I think it's somewhere in here, but it was a dual-ended brush with kind of a stiff shading brush and then a very large pencil brush on one side, I guess. But I love these colors. It's very warm. I use these three constantly. I love the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I have two Too Faced palettes, I guess I'm going to say, because I have the Labelle Carousel set that I have a whole video series devoted to. So that's all of that. This has 2 blushes and 2 bronzers in it, but it also has 3 eyeshadow palettes that each have 4 eyeshadows in them. And I love this. I'm just going to keep, I don't use this constantly because of the way it's like broken up and set up, but I do keep it because it looks nice on my desk, and I really think it's just beautiful and pretty. Then I also have the Too Faced Original Chocolate Bar palette, which has this stupid thing. I love this palette. I use it all the time. I constantly use all of these colors. It's just a great palette. Then a recent purchase is the Lorac Mega Pro 2. I was so happy to get my hands on this. Like, you have no idea, honestly. I really like this palette. I have a full review on this palette up already, I'm sure. If it's not, it's coming. And the colors in here are just great. Great pigmentation. Lot of fallout in the metallic colors, but it's nothing you can't work with. And then my last palette is the MAC 15 Warm Neutral palette. This is probably my most expensive palette, but when you think about how much one MAC eyeshadow is and you get 15 of them for this price, it's a pretty good deal. I love this palette. This is the one I travel with. This one and my Naked 2 palette come with me to weddings all the time. So I really like both of those palettes. I like all of my palettes, to be honest, and the only one I don't like is that Mally palette, so that's the only one that I am getting rid of. Now we're going to move on to my smaller palettes. This first part of this video is probably just going to be completely dedicated to palettes, and then I'm going to break it up and start talking about like my single eyeshadows. But first I have this palette here. This is the California collection from BH Cosmetics. You've got 3 eyeshadows in here. I'm not really sure what happened to this purple. I never use this. This is leaving. Then I have this CoverGirl Coffee Shop quad. I purchased this based off of somebody's recommendation. I think it was Emily Noel. And I do like this. I use this matte shade all the time. This is probably what I frequently use when I'm doing like drugstore videos or things like that because I really do enjoy this. This one from Maybelline, I'm not really 100% sure where this came from now that I'm looking at it. I didn't even realize I had this. It's got a very light color, a very metallic-y color in it. It doesn't really seem, maybe I just did get my finger in there. It's got a very deep chocolate brown and then a very dark matte brown as well. And here is that cream shade. I didn't even know I had this, and I don't even think I've used this more than once. So I'm going to hang on to that and maybe do a video with this. Then I have 2 of these Revlon Photo Ready quads. This one is in Metropolitan and this one is in Renaissance. That's what that one looks like there. And then this is Metropolitan. I like both of these, so I'm going to hang on to both of these. And I like having drugstore things like this around so I can do videos with them when I do drugstore devoted videos. Also in drugstore, I have the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette. This is a great deal, and it is amazing quality for what you pay for this. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite drugstore eyeshadow palettes. I used to use this all the time. I haven't used it in a while, but I'm going to hang on to it because it's great. Then I have 2 MAC palettes. These were obviously limited edition releases. This is the Maleficent one and then the Rocky Horror Picture Show one. The Rocky Horror one, this eyeshadow and this eyeshadow, this is Carbon and this is Blackberry. Those are eyeshadows that MAC carries all the time, but everything else in here is limited edition. So that's obviously staying, and Rocky Horror is one of my favorite movies, so I wouldn't get rid of that anyway. And then the Maleficent one, all 4 of these eyeshadows in here, MAC carries all the time. So the only thing that is really limited edition about this is the packaging, and I loved the movie Maleficent. I love Maleficent as a character in the original Sleeping Beauty anyway. She's like the most fashionable villain in the entire Disney world, and I love her. I think she's one of Disney's better characters, to be honest, so that's gonna stay as well. Lastly, I'm going to toss these 3 in here as well before I break off to the second part of this video. And I have 2 of these e.l.f. custom compacts. These are 4-pan eyeshadow things, and they like hold individual eyeshadows. This eyeshadow in here is called Semi-Formal, and it is from the brand Mirabella. So I kind of forget that I have this, but I don't really have a way to get rid of it nicely right now. So I will probably get rid of this eyeshadow, to be honest, and once I have a way to do that where I can actually give it to somebody and be like, here, I think you would like this, because I want to keep this, even though it was like $1, I would just like to keep it. And then in this other one, I have 4 eyeshadows from MAC. This is Cork, Freshwater, Rule, and Carbon. These 2 are like some of my ride or die eyeshadows. I use them all the time. And Rule is a really great warm orange. Really warm orange color. And then this last little thing I have has 4 eyeshadows from, I don't know. I don't remember the brand, but these eyeshadows are meant specifically for travel, and they come in this size only. I do remember that. And then this is Meet Matte Batali from the Balm. I got it in like a little single. I think I've got another one in here. I really like using that gray for a lot of different things. So that concludes my palettes and part 1 of this video. If you want to see like my single eyeshadows and my cream eyeshadows and all that stuff, check out part 2.